all live events are theatre, and theatre is essentially about manipulating emotions. And whether you realise it or not, you've been manipulated to laugh or cry or think different. The same as when you watch a film. So that craft of creating and crafting live events or live experiences, when applied across all these different mediums and parts of our life, from the architecture, from the digital lives we lead, to the conversations people have, thinking they're talking about their own free will, but actually manipulated by something they read earlier to make people do and think and realise different things. I think that is fascinating. It's going to be used for good and evil, clearly, but that is where the world's going, and that is what fascinates me and where a lot of my attention is being focused at the moment.
This is the Ideas Lab podcast, where you can learn from great creative and entrepreneurial minds how to turn your ideas into original businesses, books and brands. Because in a crowded world, it pays to stand out. This is your host, John Williams, best-selling author and founder of the Ideas Lab London. Life is about experiences. Find them or create them, as Will Glendinning likes to say. And Will has been producing, creating and directing events of all kinds for a very long time, whether that is a commercial business event or a new public space in the centre of a major city. He's also author of The Facts of Live, how live events are conceived, procured and produced to create the greatest value and impact. Will also has some interesting thoughts about the future, where clever marketers will be manipulating the reality around us until we no longer know what's real and what's an advert. Well, I'm here with Will Glendinning. Will, I'm so glad you could make it to come up to the Ideas Lab.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we've been talking a little bit before we started recording about what you do, but how would you describe what it is? If I say to you the dinner party question, and what do you do, Will? How do you answer it?
I do all sorts of things in the world of live events, live experiences. So by trade, I'm a producer, a designer, a consultant, creative. It depends who's asking, really. My work spans sport, the arts, entertainment, brands, government, but it all comes back to live stuff, basically.
And you've worked on some fascinating projects, most of which I can't name because
you can name them, yeah.
You can name them, but you can't say what part you played. So if you give an example of the kind of things you've worked on recently that people might know of. Yeah,
so I've been involved in, crikey, some of the largest events in modern history, really. So I was the event director of the Tour de France when that came through London.
Wow.
Which kind of set the blueprint of how central London and the UK stage major events. Back in the day, there was this little thing called the Millennium Dome, now the O2 in Greenwich. I've been the event director and project director of huge NATO summits with 40, 50, 60 world leaders attending, producer of various festivals, including part of the Olympic Cultural Olympiad, opening of theme parks. The list goes on, really. All large. Not everything's large, but a lot of what I do is the large, complicated stuff.
And you were telling me about your fascinations with experiences. And I think this is a really important concept for people to get their head around, because I think right now, at this moment in time, the experience you create for people has never been more important. Even if what you're doing is providing information or expertise, which a lot of people who watch my stuff are doing for a living or want to. The experience people have when they take part in that is really important, isn't it?
I agree. And we were talking earlier, as I arrived, quite often I bring the bad news before I bring the good news and the solutions. And so many people approach me about wanting to create an event or stage an event or create an experience. And quite often the first question I ask is, well, why? And we were talking about conferences and different events we've been on. And, if you're going to produce a conference or an experience or a seminar, and these people rock up, sit in a chair, watch someone talk for a couple of hours, and then leave. You can do that eating Ben & Jerry's ice cream on your sofa in your pajamas.
And they often live stream it as well.
Yeah, it's just crazy. It's just, you're not adding any value to that person. It's sort of a waste of their time. The experience is, I'm just no different to sitting on the sofa.
Yeah.
So if you are going to actually engage people and get people along to do stuff, you want to, many a marketing guru will talk about the same thing, but, work out what those people actually want. I'm inherently an introvert and I'm quite shy, and it takes a while to talk to people. So if you're going to get me to come along to an event, you need to find ways of, either convincing me or helping me talk to other people, or finding those icebreakers, or finding a way that I can connect with people that I'm not scared of or afraid of, or whatever else. And things like food, the amount of times people will put an event on in a hotel and they'll get the hotel caterer or some posh restaurant to do the food. It's all very nice, but particularly if you go into a lot of these things, most people just want burger and chips. There was someone I was talking to a while ago who runs a large company. They wanted to take their staff over, I think it was 200 people, something like that. It's a fairly ordinary event. They wanted to take them on an away day to sort about the company strategy, and they were going to get this famous chef involved, get the best wine involved, and all the rest of it. I was like, do that when it's sort of celebratory, but you want people to work and enjoy and be relaxed. What do they actually want to eat? What they're actually going to enjoy drinking? So I just focus on the people and what's important to them, and everything else will then flow.
Yeah, that's interesting. And people the smart people are beginning to discover that there's something else that happens in the room other than just, hearing somebody give a talk. And what that thing is that happens in the room is up to you. And the example I was using is that actually from my own experience, when I ran the 30-day challenge for 6 years, this course I had over 300 people on it at a time, sometimes our mutual friend Saskia started her business on. It was about the experience. And people go, well, isn't that just an online course? No. It's completely different, because it's like the difference between listening to a CD and going to a festival. And I think increasingly, because basically content and is kind of becoming commoditized. Even TED Talks feel a little bit like they're done. There's a very set format to them. Some of them are wonderful, right? But it's beginning to feel a little bit tired.
TED Talks are interesting. They are fascinating.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it is now, 10 grand, 15 grand a ticket, whatever it is. But most of the sort of alchemy, the magic that happens at TED Talks is who you're sitting next to, or you're suddenly sitting next to
Bill Gates,
the CEO of this, or whatever it is, or some interesting artist. That's where the magic happens.
Yeah. No, I know, and it's that special kind of atmosphere you create, and curating the audience, and perhaps also what it stands for. Because I'm often saying to people, I run a thing called the Pioneer Program, and one of the things we start with is, what is your vision of the world if it was working better in this particular space that you want to help with? And if you can capture that in one message, what would it be? And if you built an event or an experience that curated people to attend who held the same vision, then
they're going to be more motivated to talk to each other, more motivated to come up with ideas. Yeah, that's tricky. You got to find out what the audience wants.
Although if you're a thought leader in that space, you'll probably start to gather people around you who are of that ilk anyway, if you've got the clarity of what you're doing.
Agreed, yeah. As it comes back again to what's the audience interested in. But if you are going to create an experience, it's, the word event is such a strange word. It can cover everything from a wedding, a party, a rave, a political demonstration through to the Olympic Games. But it is the experience. It's creating that experience, and it's coming up with things people are actually going to care about. In my view, again, this doesn't win me loads of friends, but I think lots of the majority of events or experiences that actually happen are largely pointless for people other than those hosting them. Well, it's true. You'll sit down with, I'm not going to mention any names, but you'll sit down with CEOs, or you'll sit down with, C-suite executives, or not all of them, but a lot of people. So you want to create an event or a summit or a TED Talk version thing, and you'll say, why? So we've got these ideas. We want to lead all this thought leadership piece. We want to get the message out there. You go, okay, well, why are you staging an event? If you want to get your message out there, there's digital channels can do that far better. There's far better ways of promoting your brand and your ideals and all the rest of it than getting 100 or 1,000 people in a room. And you drill down to it, and eventually, once you get to the bottom of it all, it's ego. People want to be standing on stage with Bill Gates or Richard Branson so they can get the photo, and they satisfy the tip. There's nothing wrong with that.
But be honest. Be honest with yourself, at least, if nothing else.
But you're not
the picture of Bob Geldof, who is your keynote speaker. Fine.
If that serves your marketing purpose or some childhood ambition to stand next to Bill Gates, it's great. But that's only going to be a good experience for you, not your audience. So it's getting through that.
So for people who are designing something that's a bit smaller, it might be some sort of live event, or maybe they dream of creating a festival or a workshop. A lot of people I know dream of running a retreat somewhere exotic that's going to, change people's lives. Do you have any tip? I mean, is it really about starting with what you're trying to do for people, or who they are, or where should they start with?
Well, this may be obvious, but I think if you've got an audience that want to come to your retreat, they're going to like you, they're probably going to come anyway. You've probably already sold before you sold it. But the stuff that really gets people's back up is all the boring stuff. How am I getting there? What's the address? How do I get there? What are the travel options? What's the food? Am I going to have? Do I need to bring change of clothes? All that stuff is what drives everyone potty. And that's, in my experience, assuming the content's good and your audience are going to want to come and see you, that's the bit that change was the experience. It's from like when you get up in the morning to how you get there. It's funny, I have friends, if I'm organising, just with friends, if I'm organising, I don't know, dinner or inviting everyone for dinner, they'll get like the whole set of instructions. Like, you come here, you do that, then press this button, then call this number. The food is this, wear this, the temperature's this. It's the whole experience. It's not just, if you're good at your craft, that's already going to be sorted. But it's looking at the whole end-to-end journey.
I volunteered. We used to have offsites at a software company I was with that was part of Avid Technology. And they used to call them Tenby, because they used to happen in Tenby, because the founder was from...
They're called Tenby events.
Tenby in Wales. And long after we could fit in his little house in Tenby, or his parents' house, whatever it was, they were still called that. And then, but what we would do is, a big part of it is, well, what do you want to change about the company? So it was really, once we were there, we were talking about that kind of stuff. And I volunteered to be environmental liaison officer, which just happened to spell out ELO, which being from Birmingham, being quite into them when I was a child, was a bit of an in-joke. And I would like organise things. I organised some company outing, and I did exactly what you do. So I sent the complete list of instructions. This is exactly what's happening, where you need to
no one read
and everything. And they all went like, "Yeah, what time are we meeting?" And they go like, "Where is this thing again? What do I have to wear?" And they go like, "It's in the email."
Which they won't read. Yeah.
No, but you have to accept this. So if you're ever going to run an event or workshop, you'll realise, if you're somebody who gets irritated by that, like I am, you need somebody...
people not following instructions?
People not paying attention, and what you need is somebody
which is most humans.
Which is most humans, and it's probably me if I'm, because these people were smart people. They were software developers, and they were quite capable of following instructions. So what you need to do is, you need to make sure there's somebody in your team who likes that sort of thing and loves helping people and putting a smile on their face when they ask the same question as the last 20 people. Otherwise, it's not going to go well. So, I mean, sometimes it's the little things that make an experience as well. I know, I signed up for a course that was like $100. Supposedly, it was a loss leader, a guy called Russell Brunson. He does internet marketing.
Yeah,
you might see his face everywhere. Yeah, and they send you this box, which is actually over there at the moment, because you use it as a monitor stand. It's the perfect size.
What sort of books?
It comes with books, and it comes with some really cute little stuff. Like he has the entire audio of the course that's going to be released day by day, but he gives it you all as audio, but in an MP3.
You can do the whole course before you go on the course.
Yeah, and it doesn't come with headphones, but it's an MP3 player USB stick, basically. So you can walk around listening to Russell, should you want to. And it's like full of funky red packing material, and everything about it is exciting. And on the outside, it's got this Mission Impossible stuff, because it's called something related. I can't remember now. So these little things matter.
Our industry is about packaging and how people open things.
It is. Well, the expert industry has a lot to do with that. And, when you walk in the room at a big live event, that's... Do you think that's adding actual value, or do you think that's creating the illusion of value? What I've determined is that I need motivation, I need to believe. So there are times when I'm on the point of buying something, and I want somebody to sell me, and I want somebody to give me the rah-rah. Just that bit of psychology, that bit of NLP to... Yeah, I want them to act like they are so excited that this is going to blow my mind. So I believe that they're capable of it. But I actually want that bit of rah-rah and excitement, and this is going to be the most amazing thing. Everyone likes to be excited.
So it's like the, if you see Johnny Ive interviewed about how they design the packaging for your iPhone, and you take the lid off the box, the fact that it opens slowly and you get that kind of airlock, space age airlocks, and regardless of what you think of the iPhone, it increases the perceived value of that.
Well, I saw somebody doing an unboxing of the Pixel 4 from Google, and
the new one.
Yeah, and I went like, have you ripped everything off Apple? It's exactly the same as the iPhone box. It's like, come on, guys. Is there something original you can do here? And arguably, some people say the Pixel 4 is a far better phone than the iPhone and so on. But it's like...
Same psychology as perfume bottles, isn't it? That's how you get your 800% markup on a bit of perfume.
Well, Seth Godin tells that story of what I think it's wine, where you do wine tasting, you tell people the wine is more expensive, it tastes better to them. But what's really bizarre is if you put their brain in a scanner, they actually are tasting better wine when they think it's more expensive. Their brain is responding differently than if it's not. And to be honest, to me, what that says is an awful lot of life is just manipulating our emotions. So we want to manipulate those in the right direction so that, I want to be excited when I'm driving to the festival or getting the train to the festival. I don't want to feel like, is this going to be any good? Mm-hmm. I want to feel like it's going to be amazing. And of course it needs to be fun when I get there. But
it's the same when you go and buy an Audi. You buy your Audi for 50 grand, 100 grand, whatever, I don't know what it costs, whatever an Audi costs. And the most exciting part for some of the family when you get the free umbrella when you leave the dealership.
It is. I mean, people will literally, but there are little add-ons, and I've talked about this sometimes with people around selling and copywriting. People will buy something for the add-on. They'll buy the Audi for the Audi cap, which you can only
the only way you can get it.
Yeah. And, when I got a Mini, I got very excited. I think I got a Mini mug or something. I can't remember what it was. So I bought this Mini Roadster, which is the coolest Mini ever made.
Of course.
And it comes with a Mini mug and something else that you throw in. And I was so excited. He could have forget.
Well, that's much more Instagrammable, isn't it, I suppose, as well. Here's my new Mini,
Instead of giving me a few $100 off. Go on.
I think your point about I don't know if it's a trend, but I see an increasing issue I don't think it's an issue now, but it's becoming one, is, the way the majority of people now learn to interact is online.
Yeah.
God forbid, if Facebook had existed when I was 13, 14, 20 years old, I doubt I'd have been such an introvert and so shy. I don't know if I'd have ever left the house. And that's the way people are now learning to interact. And on one hand, it's great because they get much better exposure to different people and can meet and chat to people online. But when you put them people in a live environment, so say if we were both 20 or something, or looking a few years down the line, and when we turn up to an event, I'm probably going to be more comfortable trying to find you using some location app on my phone than I am coming up to go, hi, your top and who's the lady on your T-shirt and all the rest of it, because it's not a natural thing for us, whereas it may have been for a previous generation. So anything people can do to actually get people talking to each other when they first turn up. You go to these events, like the marketing training events you're talking about. It's like you get funneled in here, whether it's a Tony Robbins event or a more niche 20-person workshop. You get registered, you get a little badge or something or a lanyard, and then you get sent to the tea and coffee area. And then there's this awkward pregnant pause when you've got 3 people around the tea and coffee and no one wants to talk to each other because, what do I say? There's just not that skill set there. So anything you can do.
That's probably semi-deliberate with those people because they know that what's going to sell is not you talking to each other. And what's going to sell is you looking at the speaker and looking up to the speaker and also wishing you're in the VIP seats at the front that cost more money.
Well, then you're trying to create a nice experience for them, or are you trying to maximise your own? I mean, it's a difficult dilemma, I guess. Nearly every event I'm involved with or you go to, you see the same thing, people wandering around, and probably the same people sort of work in the room trying to network because that's their natural personality state. But there's a lot of people sort of sitting in the corner eating their hobnobs, dunking in a cup of tea, wishing someone would talk to them and not wanting to make that first move. So,
and have you seen any clever ways of getting over that?
People. It's people. It's talking to people. Yes, you can go to any event agency or anyone who designs experiences and they'll come up with a million different ways of creating ice-breaking exercises or workshops, and call it what you want. But it's people. People like being valued and spoken to. And
so, do you mean that people who are working for the event could start that process?
Yeah, either the person running the event or the hosts, or on some events we even have people planted to look like audience members to ask questions, which is obviously, but also actually go around and saying, well, hi, you're John, aren't you? What are you interested in? Oh, you should come and meet Claire because she does X, Y, and Z. I mean, it costs nothing. Does require research, does require effort to know what people are interested in. It's the same way politicians lobby. Clearly works. You work the room. You just get people connected and talking. Yeah.
And you're passionate about where experience is going, where the world of experiences is going. What's your opinion on that? What events are already, like I say, we were at a moment in time and they've never been more important.
Yeah, I think the future is quite interesting. I mean, I work in the world of events, but events is such a ridiculous term. It doesn't really mean anything. And if you use the words events, everything sort of pigeonholes into weddings and parties. But it's about experiences. And I think what's fascinating for me in the future, what's happening now a bit, but certainly in the distant future, is the boundary between reality that we're in, the reality we live in, and a version of reality that is manipulated in the interest of selling more stuff or communicating or entertaining, are going to become incredibly blurred to the point where reality becomes quite abstract. I mean, we sort of exist in that world now. I mean, at one end of the spectrum, you have things like, I don't know what it's, WWF, the World Wrestling Federation, where you have the heavily stage-managed wrestling sporting events. Everyone loves it. It's great. But the storylines are plotted out and then they play out. It's manipulated reality. And that generates huge tribes, huge business off the back of it. It's a huge entertainment and lifestyle phenomenon. That's kind of the obvious side of it. The other end of the spectrum we were discussing earlier is, there are large portions of society that take what they see in the media and on the news at face value. And that will influence how they vote in a democratic election. So do we live in a democracy? It's a whole debate. What is reality? Is our reality perceived in order to get us to vote a certain way? So they're kind of the two ends of the extremes, I guess, at the moment. But it's going to start affecting everything in our lives. The architecture we live, work, and play in is becoming more automated and being designed to be more immersive or influence behavior. Shop design, retail design, commercial design is designed to get you to move in a certain way, buy certain things, and think certain things. Our existence online is heavily manipulated, as you know, with various algorithms tracking what we're interested in. All this is merging together. I think it's only a matter of time before all of that is glued together and people start creating experiences which are much more sort of long-tail, long-term things. So, for example, if you and I walk out here now and go get lunch somewhere, if we see, an accident in the street or some people protesting in the street, we don't know whether that's real. We don't really know whether that's real or whether it's some flash mob thing. We may then report it. Journalists may see it and report it, and that becomes news. And then it might turn out down the line that it was actually a long-tail news piece to promote some product or service down the line. And if you're watching House of Cards and the last episode of the finale, the House of Cards gets played out in the actual Senate, you don't know whether you're watching reality. This is fascinating. Technology is helping, but it's also, all live events are theatre, and theatre is essentially about manipulating emotions. And whether you realise it or not, you've been manipulated to laugh or cry or think different. The same as when you watch a film. So that craft of creating and crafting live events or live experiences, when applied across all these different mediums and parts of our life, from the architecture, from the digital lives we lead, to the conversations people have, thinking they're talking about their own free will, but they're actually manipulated by something they read earlier, to make people do and think and realise different things. I think that is fascinating. It's going to be used for good and evil, clearly. But that is where the world's going, and that is what fascinates me and where a lot of my attention is being focused at the moment.
That's it.
It's quite hard to grasp, but it's fascinating.
And for me, what I'm realising I'm doing is when I wake up in the morning and I'm making breakfast, I will listen to something. In fact, I've always been a deliberate manipulator of my mood. So I sort my music by by two categories. By electronic and non-electronic, because I'm a big electronic music fan. But then within those two categories, from sort of mellow and mild to very upbeat and very distracting, and to the point of, industrial techno. It's very aggressive. And so according to where my mood is, if I want to push it up or down, then I will, play it where it used to be taking CDs out or vinyl out, and now it's Spotify playlists. And that's the way I think about it. But I also think about it when I'm playing a podcast or an audiobook in the morning. And I think, well, what mood do I want? Am I already a bit frazzled, in which case I don't want to be more extra stimulated? Mm-hmm. But do I want something that just feels like I can switch my brain off and I can laugh? Or do I want something that's going to motivate me and push me a bit? And so we can become sophisticated users of that stuff. And I'm well aware that all of that is to be taken with a pinch of salt. I mean, I'm reading a book right now that's sort of semi-spiritual, which I sort of semi-believe, but I find is having a good effect on me. Mm-hmm. I think. This is.
And was that book recommended to you by someone? It's
a book by Kyle Cease called The Illusion of Money. Mm-hmm. And I think it's interesting. Kyle Cease, yeah. And he used to be a stand-up comic. That's right. And then he became an inspirator. I think he was the guy Joe Rogan was rubbishing the other day, and he said he's bad stand-up comic who became this cheesy motivational speaker. But I think actually his book is quite interesting. And actually the book is about the nature of reality and what money really means. And I find that very interesting. So I'm already kind of understand what's going on. And I do take an interest in Scott Adams' take on politics, the Dilbert guy. Mm-hmm. If you follow him, he's always deconstructing the criticism of Trump. And I don't buy everything Scott says, and I'm never going to become a supporter of President Trump. But he does a very good job of deconstructing the stories around him, which are now taken as absolutely true. Mm-hmm. And
when you say the stories around him, I mean the media stories around him.
The media reports. So, for instance, I'm getting into very dodgy territory here, but he famously seemed to ridicule a disabled reporter at a
I remember the news report.
Right, and he did this kind of emotional, like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. And people went, oh my God, that guy's got a problem with his arms. You're making fun of him. And he goes like, no, it wasn't. I mean, somebody cut together on YouTube a series of clips over the past 10 or 20 years where Trump makes this gesture about anyone who's flailing around in life, mm-hmm. including himself. So he even said, like, if what's his wife?
So their point being that even though Trump's thing is ill-judged, it's what he does normally.
He's never smart enough to think through, I better not do this because the guy's disabled. But also he doesn't really care, and he doesn't think in that kind of way. So, but anyway, I'm convinced now from watching that clip that this is just a thing he does, and it was coincidence that the person he was describing actually has something wrong, some sort of spasticity type stuff in the muscles, but everyone's so convinced, and Meryl Streep did her Oscar speech or whatever it was, mm-hmm. an award about what a monster he was because of this thing. I mean, everybody shared it the next day on Facebook, and everybody reported on Meryl Streep. But it isn't true. Now, but then again, you can look at it and go, I saw him ridicule the disabled guy. I know it's true.
But it's not true. It's a version of truth.
Right. Yeah. And I think that is very interesting. And what he's saying is, when you become, in the same way that the very strong Republicans saw Obama as an absolute monster, when most of us, certainly in Europe, looked at him and went, well, this is the most sane person we've ever seen in charge of America. Well, I did anyway. Mm-hmm. But for the right-wing Republicans, they just believed everything Fox told them and saw different videos to what we saw. They saw him looking like an idiot. So every photo I see of Trump, he looks like a fool. No, there's probably a certain amount of truth in that. But he never looks particularly presidential. But if you follow, that's why I started following him on Instagram and Facebook. Because actually you see photos where you think, oh, actually he does look kind of presidential.
Statesman-like, yeah.
So it's that if you just go down one line of vision, you just get one story, and it's all just a story.
I think that's an interesting point. I think a better way, or a more understandable way of articulating what I was trying to get across is if you exist on Facebook, for example, your Facebook feed, to your point, will exist to stuff that you watch.
Yeah.
So if you aren't a Trump supporter, your Facebook feed is going to be full of anti-Trump stories, pictures of him not looking very presidential. But if you're a staunch Republican and have followed Trump all your life and you love him, your Facebook feed is going to be full of presidential-like imagery, which resonates with you. But that currently is pretty much just online at the moment.
Yeah.
But my point about events and experiences and how these different worlds are going to combine in the real world is your real world is going to be the Facebook feed of your reality.
Right.
So, if you love doing certain things, understanding and or if you love doing certain things and going to certain places and subscribing to certain things, your experience in life, the people you meet, the things you buy, your perception of different experiences is going to be manipulated in that same way. We can argue about whether it's good or bad, but it's just going to be the reality.
Right.
And I just think that's going to become more and more manipulated and be more and more tools to glue that together to create short
So
experiences.
is this about technology, or is it just about people getting smarter about experiences?
I think technology is the catalyst, but you and I found each other because I think we were chatting online somewhere and someone introduced us. So I looked you up, you looked me up. I found what I would have wanted to have found about you based on whatever my algorithm was saying, and likewise with you. And then we've ended up chatting about things that we're either both interested in or have in common. Someone else may find you and talk about something else entirely. All of that can be manipulated. So the person who introduced us could have told us individually something about each other that was something completely different for their own aim, and then told us to meet in a certain restaurant or go by this shop or whatever else it is, or make sure that we walk past a certain bit of architecture at certain times. We both see a thing on the billboard at Piccadilly Circus, wherever else it is, and that forces us to discuss something, which we then talk about on your podcast, that everyone else then sees. Right. That is going to become quite meta and quite...
and we're all going to get smarter at that, aren't we? And we're starting to get there. I mean, I remember when I first moved to London, I was house hunting, and I washed up in, well, I was told it was Highgate. It was really East Finchley. For it to look
Highgate Borders.
Right. It's always a thing when you're house hunting in London. They go like, where is it, Highgate? And then you go, what tube should I get off? And they go, East Finchley. Anyway, he said, come out the East Finchley tube and cross the road and go into the park and then take the first exit on the left. Now, the fact is, that's not a quick route to where I was going to see. But what it does is you walk through the park. It's actually really nice. There's loads of squirrels in there, and there's dogs and people playing with the children. And it's quite a beautiful, tiny little park. And then you emerge and you go and see the flat. And I was kind of sold at that point. And he'd done it deliberately. And he used to work for
He'd managed your experience.
He managed my experience. He used to work for NME. He used to be in the music industry. He's had rock stars who are staying at the house at times. And so he understands how to do that, how to manipulate.
I'm talking about sort of the long distant future. But there's things that are happening now, like early versions of this manipulation of reality. So there was a, I don't know when it came out. There was a Dark Knight, the Batman film came out 5-10 years ago. Whenever that came out, it was an amazing. Well, some people call it a PR campaign, some call it marketing, some call it an event, some call it an experience. It's kind of academic. But there were a number of political campaigns that were run. I think it was in New York, but certainly in a city in the US, campaigning for Harvey Dent to be the mayor of Gotham City. But they were just run like normal adverts in normal magazines and normal newspapers. And that then spawned an entire online community, an entire swathe of different events. And people were marching through the streets, like actually physically marching through the streets with placards saying vote for Harvey Dent.
Wow.
For a thing that wasn't even real.
Yeah.
So that happened. People were watching and going, well, who the hell's Harvey Dent? And suddenly you're Googling Harvey Dent. You go, oh, there's a film coming out. What is that? An experience, an event? But it's a different version of reality. And another example was, I forget which product it was for, but there was a number of phone boxes back when phone boxes were a thing before mobile phones existed. And they all rang at different times in the US, and loads of journalists started picking up on it. reporting about all these random phone boxes ringing at different times. It was so interesting that journalists started talking about it on the news or writing about it in the papers, I forget. And once this coverage was happening, that's when, I think it was a technology company, that's when a technology company rang the phones again and said, look, we've connected all these people, isn't it amazing? You can do the same thing by buying our, I think it was some software product, or buying our software product. So you're controlling people's experiences and realities for different aims. That's what fascinates. That's where everything's going.
And that, marketing will go that way increasingly, and it's
communication and lobbying, and
I mean, God, there's all sorts of ethical questions.
But I think entertainment will go that route as well, or to a point. Some interesting conversations having at the moment with, trying to use a tangible example. If you imagined without mentioning anything that's actually happening, if you imagine a political drama, for example, a bit like it's happening in the UK at the moment, but if you imagine a fictional political drama happens on TV, your typical 12, 13 episodes, the entire nation is hooked on this periodic series of episodes that get broadcast each week. Imagine at the end of so it's a 13 episode series. Imagine the end of the 12th episode, everyone's now going, oh my God, what's going to happen in the finale? The whole country's talking about it. Can you imagine if at the end of that episode there was an announcement saying there's not going to be a 13th episode in the way you expect, or it's not going to be at the same time next week? The 13th episode is actually going to happen live in the House of Commons or in Parliament itself. Only 1,000 people. Can you imagine how much those tickets will sell for? The ethics for another conversation. But those 1,000 people will pay through the nose to watch that live House of Cards or political drama type thing in the House of Commons. And then it may spill out onto the street if it's something that people are writing about or lobbying about in the fictional thing on TV. Those demonstrations could happen around the actual Houses of Parliament. It's just, are you watching reality or are you watching content? Are you watching entertainment? Could the finale of the Game of Thrones have been played out across the South Downs or through the valleys of Hawaii or wherever?
I mean,
just scratching the surface.
The first people who do something big like this, it's going to be massive, isn't it? And
but I don't think there'll be a sea change. I think different things will start happening.
There will be like, in the same way that Live Aid was like a moment time that said there's something about festivals, but they have a cause. That changed everything, and then that kind of spurned loads of
but I don't, because you're dealing with reality, you're dealing with real people and experience. I don't think you can completely force it. People have to kind of realise things and do things of their own volition. It's when people try and do like viral marketing campaigns, and a brand will go to an agency, we want our video to go viral. It's not going to go viral.
But somebody will get it right. Somebody will hire Will, and do.
There will be that moment in time,
and it will. Everyone just go, oh my God, this is incredible. I mean, the Secret Cinema has had a lot of success. I don't know how much money they're making. They got into trouble with one of their events where it was delayed or cancelled, but I think they're still going. I'm not sure. Yeah, and there's a couple of things like that. So I think it's fascinating. So if people want to know, we should mention your book before we finish.
You can do if you want.
This is quite a technical book, you said, The Facts of Live. But if you actually want to know, because Will is, apart from these fascinating discussions, actually gets into the nitty gritty of how real big events that cost an absolute fortune work. Yeah, true. So it's a book for people who are, if you're going to run your own festival, you might actually want to read it.
Well, the book's primarily aimed. The reason I wrote the book is because there's, live events are quite nebulous. People call them different things, but if you're doing anything live, producing or procuring or conceiving something live is an actual discipline. It's a craft, but it's a craft that so few people understand, like architecture or legal professional medicine. No one really kind of gets it. And there's so much wasted time, money and effort, whether the event's tiny or enormous. So there's not ever been really in one place a guide on how to actually, conceive live events, procure them if you're going to get someone else to do it, or actually glue a team together to produce them. So
Great. So it's the facts of live, how live events are conceived, procured, and produced to create the greatest value and impact by Will Glendinning. And you can get that on Amazon right now.
You can.
So
bedtime reading for you.
That's been fascinating. I could speak for another hour about this. So I'm just waiting for the first person to hire you to do one of these incredible things and to have it, just.
Well, there's various conversations going on.
Are there?
We'll see.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I hope you give me an inside nod when it happens. Okay. Well, thanks very much for joining us, Will. Appreciate that.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Ideas Lab podcast. Please do subscribe, and if you've enjoyed this episode, it would be great if you could leave us a review. You can get links and details of everything mentioned in the podcast in the show notes, along with photos and video clips from many of our episodes. Just go to theideaslab.org/podcast.